The best thing about having a YouTube channel that's not tied to any particular tool manufacturer is I can review whatever tools I want and say what I think. So today I'm going to be reviewing 3 good quality semi-professional combi drills and comparing them against my old favourite here to help you decide which could be your next step up from the entry-level version, or if you just want to change, to give those around you an idea of maybe a potential birthday or Christmas present. I'm just saying. The 3 drills I'm going to be putting through their paces today are the Bosch GSB55, the Milwaukee CBLPD 402 and the Makita DHP 485, and I'll be comparing all 3 of those with my very old but trusted DeWalt, and I think this is a 776, so this has been around a few years, and I probably bought this maybe 3 years ago. It's not as powerful as the others, but I'm very keen just to see what's happened in the market since I've bought this. Now, each one has an 18-volt brushless motor, hammer action, and comes with either a 4 or a 5 amp hour 2-pack battery set. So these are excellent starters to a collection of good quality tools, as those types of batteries will give you a lot of work from any tool they're used with. And all of these are around the £200 price mark. Obviously, they're going to be a lot cheaper if you buy them bare without the batteries, but I bought these with the charger and 2 big batteries, which means that they're a really good starter if you're going to increase your collection of power tools. And those sort of big batteries work really well on angle grinders or impact drivers or anything like this. Now, I bought the ones I did, as in the Makita, the Milwaukee and the Bosch, because these are good brands and are definitely competing for a similar slice of the market, which I would describe as premium DIY or semi-professional market. And believe me, I could have picked a lot more expensive drills than this from these manufacturers. I picked these ones because they're sort of within the reach of a lot of DIYs. The more expensive ones are then getting really professional and start getting quite pricey, hence why I've ended up with these. Now, these manufacturers I've not used before. All these drills I've just taken out the box. I've never drilled anything with them, so it'd be interesting to see what I think about these drills. I have a sneaky suspicion which one's going to come first, probably based on the advertising, the feedback I've already got. And I'll let you know which one that is at the end. But I'll tell you now, actually, I think it's going to be... So what tests am I going to run on this today? Well, I'm going to be comparing the power and torque of each by drilling into concrete and timber and seeing how they get on, driving some very challenging fixings. Also, I'm going to be checking the charging times of the batteries and how they feel to use in the hand, especially compared to my a lot dirtier and a lot older DeWalt. And I will be picking a winner at the end. Right, so let's start with something fairly tame and something that all of these should be really good at, which is drilling a hole. I've started with something easy just to get into things, and not surprisingly, all 3 drills excelled in basic drilling. So I moved on to drilling the biggest 25mm auger bit I have into a timber sleeper on its side. The Bosch with 55 Nm torque had just enough to keep going, although my auger bit did keep getting a little bit bunged up, so I had to take it in and out a few times to clear it. The Makita, although being the least powerful drill out of the 3 at a stated 50 Nm, did really well, equally as good as the Bosch, and felt steady all the way through. I could immediately tell that the Milwaukee had more power at 60 Nm torque, as it didn't miss a beat cutting through this sleeper, and I got the feeling it's got plenty more to give. Nothing was going to stop it. Just as a comparison, I did the same with my old DeWalt that's got a lower 42 Nm torque, which was obvious, and the fact that it's got a brush motor with brushes that are coming to the end of their life means that it was smoking heavily by the end. All three of these drills come in a nice carry box, with the Milwaukee really being the best presented. Then the Makita, which the box is functional and nicely laid out. And then finally the Bosch, which has got a bigger box and bizarrely compartments that look like they've been designed to fit a different shaped battery. Weight wise, the Bosch is the lightest at 1.75 kilograms, the Makita a few grams heavier, and the Milwaukee the heaviest at 1.87 kilograms, although it's only got a 4 amp hour battery compared to the others, which are 5. As a comparison, my old DeWalt is clearly the heaviest of them all at almost 2 kilograms. I've put Amazon links to all of these drills, both in sets and bare, in the description below. Now looking at finesse rather than power, I use the clutch function on my DeWalt all the time to put in fixings to the right depth, and it works really well. So first up, it's nice to see the clutch on the Makita performing just as well. The Bosch on setting 5 just buried this screw. So after a few tries, I got down to setting 1, which just about worked. Which is more than I can say for the Milwaukee, which I tried a number of times, and even going down to setting 3 and then setting 1, still just punched the screw into the wood. What? With all the second batteries completely flat, I put them on charge, and unfortunately the Milwaukee started flashing green and red, which apparently means a broken battery, so I couldn't test its recharge time. While the batteries are charging, it's a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit about Patreon membership and the benefits of signing up to proper DIY on Patreon. You see, as well as behind the scenes videos of events that I attend and regular additional Patreon only videos and content, every proper DIY YouTube video also comes in a Patreon only edition that's longer than the public one and contains additional material and extra insights that you don't get through YouTube. So for instance, this video you're watching at the moment, the Patreon only version will be around 5 minutes longer with additional material just for those that have signed up. So please follow the link in the description below to find my Patreon page. Have a look round. If you want to see more content, please sign up. I've tried to keep the costs as low as possible. That is the end of my advert. Let's get back to the drills. Both the Makita and Bosch batteries were fully charged in just under 2 hours, while the Milwaukee battery just flashed. I pushed the torque of the drills again by driving in a 9-inch timber screw, which all of them handled quite nicely, and then I tried the hammer function using a large 20mm masonry bit into a dense concrete block. Although the Bosch got through it, it didn't seem to have as much hammer action or vibration as the others. The Makita felt very positive, and the extra power of the Milwaukee showed itself once again. At this stage, all three batteries are still reading fully charged, which unlike the others you find on the front of the Milwaukee with quite a nice sequence light system. The lights on the Milwaukee and Makita are located just above the trigger, and for the Bosch at the bottom of the handle, which although gives a more general illumination, didn't seem nearly as bright as either the Milwaukee or the Makita, which are really quite nice and bright. One thing that is obvious with the newer drills is they're definitely getting smaller. 165, 6.5 inches. 183, 187, 228, which is about 9 inches. Wow, this one is really massive compared to the Milwaukee. In fact, I've got an idea. So the motor on my impact driver is 77mm, which is about 3 inches. And the motor on this is 77, 3 inches. If it wasn't for the chuck, both of these would be just about exactly the same length. So this is a really compact machine. And lastly, how do these drills actually feel in your hand? And I think I'm fairly qualified to talk about this with the amount of drilling I've done with cordless drills. But obviously it's very subjective. So let's have a look at the Milwaukee first. And the first thing you notice, as we talked about just now, is that it's really small. It does feel a little bit more like an impact driver than a drill. Everything is laid out quite nicely with the 2 speeds, and it just has one rotating dial that goes from hammer action to drilling, and then all through the clutch settings for the screw section. It's got a metal chuck, there's no plastic here at all, so that's quite nice, although I don't know if that makes much difference. Changing the direction is pretty easy, and it does sit in your hand quite nicely. I like the fact that you can see what's left in the battery on the front rather than the back, although these 2 levers that pull the battery off I'm not really used to, but to be honest with you, if you bought this, within 10 minutes you wouldn't think anything of it and you just get on with it. So next up is the Makita, and it reminds me immediately of the Milwaukee. It's like a modern type style, although it's just a little bit longer. And it could be a little bit longer just because it's got 2 dials. It's got one for the clutch and then one for the drilling or the hammering setting as well, rather than it all being just on one dial. The speed is really easy to move, and it's the only one out of the 3 that's got a bit of plastic on the chuck. Having said that, my old DeWalt has got this plastic sort of coating on the chuck, and it's never caused me any problems at all. So whether that's really a thing or not, that wouldn't necessarily put me off. What I do like is that the control that decides the direction of the drill, when it's pushed in, doesn't completely disappear. So it still sticks out 2 or 3 millimeters, which the others don't. And I realised that that's actually what I've got on my DeWalt. It may only stick out maybe 2 millimeters, but I can always feel it even if it's not pushed in. So I quite like that. The others, when you push them in, they just disappear into the body, so you can't sort of feel them. The Makita battery is probably the smoothest to put on and off, and it really does gives you that sort of premium feel. So really quite like that. Moving on to the Bosch. Though the Bosch immediately feels, design-wise, a little bit more old-fashioned. I don't know if this is an old model or whether that's just the Bosch style, but these are sort of high-tech. This is more traditional. Having said that, it still fits nicely in your hand. Once again, there are 2 dials, one for the clutch and one for the setting. The speed switch works easily and the direction is okay, but once it's in, you can't really feel where it is. The battery has 2 clicks to it, and this reminds me of some of the steel type products. And the reason for this, reading the instructions, is that if you accidentally press the button, when it doesn't necessarily fall off, there's another click there that you've got to go through before it actually falls off. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if that is an issue. I've never had a battery fall off any of my tools at all. So whether you need 2 clicks there or not, I don't know. And lastly, just going back to my old faithful, the DeWalt, it now feels really chunky and really heavy and really quite massive. This is a 776, which are still being sold as well. I've smelt this brush burning when I've really put it through its tests today, so I think the brushes are about to go. I've never changed brushes on anything, so maybe it's time for maybe a move up, but this does really feel quite clunky and quite out of date now. So after quite a bit of time of drilling and screwing and really pushing all of these to their limit, I've reached a conclusion. But before I tell you which one I would pick, I have to say, all of them are really good drills. These are not your entry-level drills, and all of them have quite a bit of power. The most powerful is clearly the Milwaukee, but then it should be at 60 Newton meters compared to the 50 Newton meters of the Makita and 55 of the Bosch. Having said that, I found that the Makita seemed more powerful than the Bosch, which is the opposite of what their specifications tell me. So maybe we should take that with a pinch of salt. The easiest to hold and use, I think, is also the Milwaukee because of its small size, followed very closely by the Makita. However, the clutch function just didn't seem to work properly on the Milwaukee at the lower levels. It sort of worked on the Bosch, and it worked perfectly on the Makita, just like my DeWalt, and exactly what I'm used to. And also, not having the second battery working from the Milwaukee, I can't tell how long these take to charge. However, I'm sure I can get that battery replaced, but it was a little bit of an inconvenience. So after saying all that, my all-round favourite, which generally ticked all the boxes across the board, and I would be happy to swap tomorrow as my main tool, is the Makita. It's powerful, small, and compared to the Milwaukee, the clutch just works really nicely. So I'm really impressed with the Makita, although the Milwaukee was a very close second and is probably the most powerful out of all of them. So you're now thinking, what did I predict at the beginning? So let's just go back and see the end of that clip. But I'll tell you now, actually, I think it's going to be the Bosch. So yes, I don't know why, but for some reason I thought the Bosch was going to be the clear winner. Maybe advertising, maybe because it's got professional in its name, I don't know. But I wasn't overly impressed, and for me it really came third out of the three. Having said that, it's still a lot better than what I've been using every day for the last few years, and this old DeWalt I think is coming close to retirement. You can really tell that the brush motor is inferior to these new brushless motors, and these are all a lot stronger and a lot more capable. So I think soon this is going to be retired for good. I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's given you a few hints and tips on your next purchase. I will see you next time.